Greetings and welcome. This is the ThaBadbrey Herbalist Asar, ancient astrologer of the ThaBadbrey Herbal.co.uk. And today, I'm going to speak to you about how ancient astrology, ancient astrological symbolism and correspondences are embedded into the very fabric of our society as a whole. All right. The ThaBadbrey Herbalist Asar of the ThaBadbrey Herbal.co.uk, ancient astrologer. Today, I'm going to be focusing upon the design, shape, and aesthetic appearance of London's red buses. Yeah? So look at this. London's red buses, yeah? Now, upon first glance, from what we can see here, this bus is red. That's obvious, isn't it? The bus is red and it moves in straight lines. Now, straight away, just from saying the bus is red and it moves in straight lines, from the perspective of an ancient astrologer, that straight away alludes to me and gives me an inclination as to what astrological correspondence the design and shape of the bus actually has, all right, astrologically speaking. Now, again, the bus is red, and look at the shape of the bus itself. It has looks like 90-degree angles. Look at this angle down here, 90-degree angle, yeah? It moves in straight lines. The color is red. When the driver is sitting at the front of the bus, it's very hard for the driver to look behind him or even look to the left or to the right, due to the fact that they're supposed to be concentrating on the road and moving forward. Whenever they're moving in a straight line or driving, they're supposed to be moving forward. You also see a sign inside the bus that says do not speak to the driver while the driver is driving. All right, so the driver, in a sense, has tunnel vision. All right, so again, astrologically speaking, it's quite obvious to me. Yeah, you got straight lines here. Straight lines, as ascribed to sacred geometry, a straight line with 90-degree angles, straight line or one or more straight lines that involves 90-degree angles or shapes that have 90-degree angles and straight lines, usually correspond, based upon sacred geometry, usually correspond with masculine energy. So again, the bus is red, it has straight lines, 90-degree angles, it moves in a straight line. The bus driver has tunnel vision, can only see forward, and it's very hard for a London bus to turn left or right or to turn a corner, all right, due to its bulky shape, all right. So to me, this red color blatantly corresponds with the planet Mars, astrologically speaking. Mars corresponds with the color red. It corresponds with masculine energy. It corresponds with straight lines. It corresponds with having tunnel vision, all right? Not being able to see left or right or look at a difference in opinion. Aries, someone with an Aries Martian-like energy is likely to punch first and ask questions later. They think in straight lines and they even speak in straight lines. For example, somebody who has Mercury, the planet of communication, in Aries within their natal chart, they usually speak in short, sharp sentences. I have a few friends who have Mercury in Aries, and when they speak like this. They have short, sharp sentences and they pause a lot. Then they speak in a long string. Then they stop. That's Mercury in Aries. So straight lines, thinking and having tunnel vision is Martian energy. So when you see red buses in London, corresponds to Mars, corresponds to Aries. All right. Now, before the bus moves forward, the driver needs to put the bus into gear, needs to prepare the bus to move forward, to rev the engine, so to speak, in a symbolic sense. This is similar to Aries again, because Aries symbolizes the ram. This glyph here is Aries, and this glyph is a pictorial representation of the horns of the ram. Now, what does a ram do when the ram is angry, when the ram is rutting during the mating season? It moves in straight lines. And what does it do? Before it runs into its target, what does it do? It stamps its foot or scrapes its foot on the ground and puts itself into gear before moving in a straight line, just like the bus. Yeah. So again, London's red buses correspond to Mars, Martian energy, and Aries. All right. You see this? Even the road. Even the road, the color of the road is black. Yeah. And the bus must stay on the road in order to be able to get to where it needs to get to its destination. All right. It needs to stay within the boundaries and the limitations of the road. And when you are driving on the road, you need to adhere to laws and legislation. And the roads are colored black. Therefore, the road corresponds to Saturn, because astrologically speaking, the color black corresponds to Saturn. And when you are driving on the roads, you must stay within the limitations of the road and the legislation of the road and the law of the road. Saturn corresponds with black, but also corresponds with law, legislation, and limitation. And it also corresponds with death. Therefore, it's easy to lose your life driving on the road or getting hit by something that's driving on the road, because the road corresponds with Saturn. See how it all flows? But I'm digressing. Back to the London bus. All right. So, again, London's buses are red, and it corresponds with the Martian energy. These straight lines here, 90-degree angles, corresponds with masculine energy when you speak of sacred geometry and the correspondences therein, and also corresponds with the ram. The bus driver can't see behind him or her. The bus driver can't see behind them. They have tunnel vision. They must look forward at all times and drive on the road. Tunnel vision, just like the ram. They must put themselves into gear and prepare themselves before they move in straight lines, just like the ram. Corresponds with Mars, all right? So, the next thing now. Let's look at the interior decoration or environment of London's buses. Now, let's look at this. Now look at these seats. Now let's focus upon the handles. Yeah, these handles right here are what you would hold on to if you were standing up on the bus. You will need to hold on to these handles to keep your balance. All right, and these handles are usually colored yellow or colored orange, and you hold on to them in order to keep balance. Yeah, see, orange. And you hold on to it to keep balance. And they're situated on either side of the bus. All right. So you're keeping balance by holding onto handles that are positioned and stationed on either side of the bus. Usually you have a long row. You have 2 rows of seats on the left side and 2 rows of seats on the right hand side. And then down the middle, you have a walkway. So again, this corresponds with symmetry, and you hold on to these yellow handles to keep your balance so that you don't fly through the air if the bus was to stop unexpectedly or start unexpectedly. So to stop yourself from flying through the air, and in order to keep balance, you hold on to yellow handles that are situated on either side of the bus. Yeah. So blatantly, yeah, I think you know where I'm going with this already. The orange and or yellow color corresponds to the air signs of the zodiac, all right? And the fact that you're keeping your balance corresponds with the scales or Libra. And the fact that the yellow or orange handles are situated on the left or side or the left-hand side or the right-hand side of the bus aisle, where the aisle, the walkway, separates both sides and gives a sense of symmetry, again corresponds with the scales. Corresponds with Libra. Libra is an air sign, all right? Libra is an air sign. And you hold on to these handles so that you don't end up flying through the air when and if the bus stops or starts unexpectedly, all right? So that's a bit blatant. That's a bit obvious. Another thing is that if you find yourself standing on the bus due to there not being enough seats for you to sit down, what usually happens is you are standing there and you're constantly having to stay alert due to the fact that you're constantly watching to see if a seat becomes available so that you can actually sit down. Now, if you're constantly staying alert and constantly brainstorming and keeping watch to see if a seat becomes available, what you're doing is you're engaging in a thought process that involves a lot of thinking, all right? And the synapses that fire in your brain happen due to electrical impulses. These electrical impulses are ruled astrologically by the planet Mercury, all right? The planet Mercury rules thinking, electrical impulses that fire in the brain and through the nervous system. And it also corresponds to the twins, which again corresponds with the double-bodied nature of the handles on the bus again, because you have one handle on the left side, you have a couple of handles on the left side and a couple of handles on the right hand side, yeah? The twins again, all right? Then the fact that you're thinking and brainstorming and staying alert, you're using your Mercurian energy to completely give your almost undivided attention to the fact that you're waiting for a seat to become available, yeah? Now, Mercury rules Gemini, astrologically speaking, yeah? And, yes, Gemini corresponds with quick thinking, problem solving. For example, somebody who has Mars in Gemini or Mercury in Gemini in their natal chart will be extremely exceptional if they actually took up computer programming or some type of coding or some type of mathematical subject like ancient astrology. Yeah, due to the fact that when Mercury is in Gemini or even Mars in Gemini, it's extremely dignified. Not so much Mars, but if you have Mars, which is a passionate planet with drive and determination and straight lines and thinking, and Mercury, which rules thinking and dynamic thinking, being in Gemini, that causes the individual to be able to think on their feet very quickly and problem solve and be able to take part or be extremely literate mathematically, all right? So again, digressing. So Mercury corresponds to the people who will be standing on the bus and holding onto the handles, which correspond with Libra, and looking around, brainstorming to see if a seat becomes available, all right? So, you see that? Another thing is that the seats themselves, look at the color of the seats, yeah? Look at the color of the seats. As you can see, these seats, usually in London's buses, the seats are blue, all right? And what do you do on these seats? You sit down on these seats and you relax. You usually sit down with your family and you actually relax, all right? And you look out the glass window, all right? And it's easier for you to move to the left or to the right when you're on these seats. It's harder for you to move forward and back. There's no space for you to move forward or backwards when you're sitting on these seats, but there's more space for you to move left and right. It's easier for you to move left and right rather than forward and backwards. So to me, the blue color easily corresponds with Cancer, all right? Cancer is ruled by the moon. The moon rules emotion. Cancer corresponds with emotion as well as the domestic environment, as well as spending time with your family and or relaxation, sitting down, all right? So these blue seats correspond with Cancer and correspond with the moon. Now the moon, astrologically speaking, especially in horary charts, the moon corresponds with glass. Anything made out of glass, anything that is silver, and anything that is transparent, all right? So when you're sitting down on the blue seats, which correspond with Cancer, which correspond with your emotion, then you are able to look out of the window, the glass window, which corresponds with the moon, and the moon corresponds with emotion. Hence, you get on a bus, you sit down on the blue seat, you already know on a subconscious level that the blue color corresponds with emotion and relaxation, domestic environment. And then you move to the left or the right on the seat, which corresponds with the movement of a crab. A crab moves most efficiently when it's moving left and right. It shuffles to the left or it shuffles to the right. Cancer corresponds with the crab. So you sit on these seats, you move left or right, you look out the window, the glass window, which corresponds with the moon, and you are in a relaxed state. All right. Okay. And then also the fact that you're actually on the bus. All right. And the reason why people take the bus is because it's convenient for them to get on the bus so they can reach their destination quickly. All right. Now, as I've covered before, the moon is the fastest moving planet in the whole of the zodiac. She doth move very swiftly in the heavens. And as she traverses each sign, she stays in each sign for like 2.5 days and moves about 13 degrees per day. So when you sit down on these blue seats, which correspond with the moon, which correspond with Cancer, and you shuffle to the left or to the right, which corresponds with the crab, which moves left or right most efficiently. Yeah. When you do that, it seems like the journey is going much quicker, because the journey seems to go much quicker when you're sitting down and you're actually relaxing rather than when you're actually standing up. And then you can pass the time by reading a book or doing something else. The reason why you have the inclination to read a book or your smartphone, your Android, yeah, the reason why you have the inclination to do that and pass the time is because these actual handles are orange or yellow and they correspond with your brain waves and stimulate you into having the inclination to occupy yourself with something that stimulates your thinking and or your brain, and therefore you're preoccupied as a result of feeling relaxed on a blue suit which corresponds with the moon, and the fast movement of the moon in the zodiac corresponds with the speed at which you expect the bus to reach its destination. All right, see that? And that's how it corresponds astrologically speaking. All right, now the other thing is that let's look at the indicator lights of the bus itself. Now, first of all, let's look at all of these lights. Yeah. The first thing I look at is this orange light here. All right. Which is the indicator light, if I'm not mistaken. Now, you have one on either side. You have an indicator light on the left side of the bus and an indicator light on the right side of the bus. And both of them are orange, which corresponds with the air signs of the zodiac. And due to the fact that there's two of them, one on the left and one on the right, yeah, corresponds with Libra. Again, the scales. Because if you're indicating left or right, that means you must be in the middle of something. And then when you indicate to the left, that means you're going to go to the left side of the scale. Or if you indicate to the right, that means you are planning to go onto the right side of the scale of the road. You turn left or turn right. Therefore, these lights correspond with Libra, the air sign of the zodiac. Yeah. So, I think I've covered that enough. Next thing is this red light here is a brake light, all right? Now again, the red color corresponds with Mars, corresponds with being alert and passion and taking something into consideration and giving it your utmost attention, yeah? For example, you see if you're crossing the road in the UK and you see the red man flash up onto the traffic lights, that means you must be alert and look around and make sure you don't cross the road, because you could end up getting run over and then you'll be the red man because you'll be dripping red with blood, probably, if you get hit by some fast moving vehicle. And you'll be the red man and the dead man as a result. So the red color corresponds with you having to be alert, corresponds with your heart actually pumping faster due to you having to be alert as a result of it. All right. And in astrologically speaking, Mars rules the blood. All right. It rules anger. It rules heat. You know the saying when someone says, "Oh, you're making my blood boil with anger." Yeah, astrologically speaking, that makes perfect sense. So back to what I was saying about the bus. This red light is a brake light. So if the bus is driving, going steadily along, and a cyclist decides to fly through the air, yeah, at speed, and end up in front of the bus, yeah, then the bus driver will have to quickly press the brakes. And when the bus driver quickly presses the brakes, it's as a result of the bus driver's heart rate increasing due to the fact that they're feeling like they may end up running over this cyclist and or killing the cyclist. So their heart rate increases and the heat within their body increases, which corresponds with Mars and the color red. And then what happens? The red brake light comes on as a result, because all of that corresponds with Mars, right? And then moving forward, and there could be an impact that they make with the cyclist, which corresponds again with the ram from Aries, which is ruled by Mars, running into its target and making an impact. All right. Now, these white lights here, yeah, know what this corresponds with? This white light corresponds with the first house of the zodiac, because the first house of the zodiac corresponds with the color white. The reason why it corresponds to the color white is due to the fact that the first house is the ascendant, and the ascendant is a representation of the eastern horizon from whence the sun rises, which is why the color white corresponds with the first house, due to the fact that sunlight corresponds with the color white. All right. So in the nighttime, when the sun is out of sight, this is why you have London's red buses, which have white lights at the front, because these white lights are supposed to replace the fact that the sun is no longer visible and no longer giving light to allow us to see when we are traveling around London, all right? If you're in London or anywhere else in the world. So these white lights correspond with the sun and correspond with the first house of the zodiac and correspond with the ascendant, all right? And the ascendant is the first house. It's the first house of the chart, all right? And the first thing you see of London's buses usually in the nighttime, if the lights are on very bright, are the white lights, all right? Especially if you're on the road and you're driving and you look in your rear view mirror, then you will see these lights, all right? So as you can see, looking at London's buses with astrological eyes, it's quite clear that these red buses, this red color, these 90-degree angles and straight lines correspond with Mars, correspond with Aries. The fact that the bus moves in straight lines corresponds with Aries, corresponds with Mars. Then you got this white light, which corresponds to the first house of the zodiac, corresponds with the sun's light, all right, and sunlight itself. And then you have these yellow handles, and or there might be orange handles, but these yellow handles correspond with Libra, because Libra corresponds with the scales and balance, and you hold on to these handles to keep balance on either side of the bus. These handles are situated on either side of the bus. Then you've got the actual seats themselves, which are blue, which correspond with Cancer, correspond with the moon. You're looking out the window and you're sitting with family, and you move to the left or to the right, just like a crab, which corresponds with the moon. And the glass window corresponds with the moon itself, all right? And even when you look at the bus and you look at the destinations that the bus is actually going, like for example here, the bus is going to Finsbury Park Station, and you can see the number that's on the bus and where it's actually going. These numbers are usually written in like a yellowish greenish, it's like a yellowish color, which again corresponds with air, because this information travels through the medium of the air, reaches your eyes, and as a result of it traveling through the medium of the air, it reaches your eyes and you actually can interpret it and decipher the information and find out whether or not that bus is the one that you actually want. And when you're going through that thinking process, the synapses are firing with electrical impulses, which is ruled by Mercury, and Mercury rules thinking and corresponds with Gemini, and Gemini corresponds with orange and or yellow, which is why this text is written in a yellowish color. Now, this yellowish color that the text is written in for the bus's destination is surrounded by black, and again, black corresponds with Saturn, rules, boundaries, law, legislation, all right? So the bus driver is bound to the boundaries of the destination that he is supposed to take the passengers to. So due to him having to adhere to the Saturnian laws of the destination that the bus is supposed to go to, is the reason why this yellowish destination that the text is written in is surrounded by the kind of black which corresponds with Saturn. All right. Even the tires of the bus themselves are black, which correspond with Saturn again, and they come into contact with the road, which is black, which corresponds to Saturn. And lots of people die on the road due to traffic accidents, and dying, another way of saying dying, is the word death. Death, dying, and the end of life corresponds with Saturn again. All right. So that's the astrological correspondences and symbolism which are prevalent within London's buses. All right. Just pointing that out for you. This is the ThaBadbrey Herbalist Asar, ancient astrologer of the ThaBadbrey Herbal.co.uk. And I will be back. All right. Dendera. Stay tuned.